Hi there, I'm Ahsan Shaw, and you're watching me on YouTube and Facebook Live. Today we are going to talk about fear, its causes, impact, types, and the fear of unknown. When we say fear, fear is a natural human emotional instinctive response. It is something that that we survive because of our fear instinct, and it makes us cautious. It alerts us about certain about certain potential dangers. And there are various types of fear: PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, social anxiety, social disorder, or could be a fear of objects, or could be number of things. We cannot we cannot in a precise way. There are the books, the textbook have defined it, and they categorize this in different categories. But fear could be anything. It could be anything, and it plays a significant role in our survival, in our daily life survival. Anyways, if the instinctive fear stays for a short term, for some time, okay, it makes sense. I understand, but imagine uh, if you have to if you have to live through the state of fear for consistently over a period of time. Now, it's been years you have had a traumatic experience, and it's been years passed by, but you still go through the traumatic experience. You still feel the state of fear. This is this is something that's not good, and it could be a traumatic experience. It could be fear of objects, or it could be fear of socializing, fear uh, of any uncertain thing that prolongs for a certain that prolongs for a certain period of time, and you have to live through it every time. This is fear, and it is different from anxiety. and and today we are going to talk about fear, how to deal with fear, its type, causes, and impact. And to discuss this topic, my guest is Adrian Sortino. He has joined us from Footscray, Victoria, Australia.
Hello, hello. I'm a
Hi,
little bit further
Adrian.
out than Footscray. How are you, brother?
Yes, yes, I'm doing good. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. It's a beautiful
Yes.
day, as you can see. It's
Mm-hmm,
11 o'clock, just after 11 o'clock in the morning,
mm-hmm,
and yeah, we've been graced with some beautiful weather.
mm-hmm. So, what do you think about fear, and what causes fear?
The story, the
Hmm.
story causes fear,
Mm-hmm,
and a large proportion of unworthiness, because in this
mm-hmm,
lifetime that they've had us running
mm-hmm,
around, we've been told that we're unworthy in so many different ways.
mm-hmm,
Love is a huge component of fear. If you
mm-hmm,
are not loving yourself, you are fearful of what is happening. The
mm-hmm,
narrative in which we use, be it a spellcasting narrative, without even understanding what we're doing to ourselves, we're
mm-hmm,
giving a lesser quality of life because we are stepping outside of ourselves continually, living in that realm of fear, which has been put there and designed for this to happen, exist.
mm-hmm,
So measuring fear, everybody carries it, same as
mm-hmm,
everybody carries love.
mm-hmm,
It's just a choice whether or not the fear is going to be the reaper or the love is going to be the planter. Because the love component will always allow you to move forward on your journey. The fear
mm-hmm,
component will always take you to the point of secluded loneliness, putting yourself outside of the comfortable zone in which we need as an energy.
mm-hmm,
So, yeah, many things to talk about and consider when we use the word fear.
mm-hmm. So we need the component of love to face the fear.
Well, that's a huge starting point.
Mm-hmm,
We have to consider that we are abundant with love. Every
mm-hmm,
breath that we take is the
mm-hmm,
breath of life.
mm-hmm,
And if we're breathing in that life to fuel a fire that is only
mm-hmm,
going to intimidate us 24 hours, 7 days a week,
mm-hmm,
where we may be doing things wrong.
mm-hmm,
We may be doing things not quite to the unique truth of ourselves.
mm-hmm,
And it's easy to fall down that pathway of fear when you don't feel worthy to be in the circle that you are or worthy of even taking that breath.
mm-hmm,
And that's the measure of where we have been placed. And if we're
mm-hmm,
strong enough to consider that we are worthy, that the story that has belittled us, the story that has
mm-hmm,
administered fear, is
mm-hmm,
only a lesser quality to our design.
mm-hmm,
So this is going to be a journey that you're always going to be led a different map because you're never taking control of the situation.
mm-hmm. So what causes fear? And I still don't get it because there are different types of fear. It's PTSD, fear of objects, fear of unknown is a very and it's a natural instinct, as I said in the earlier, that we survive because of our fear instinct. It makes us cautious, alerts us. But okay, for a short time it makes sense, but when you consistently have to live through the state of fear, then it becomes a problem.
Well,
So, what do
everybody's
you
living
think?
through.
Mhm,
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
mhm. So,
What were you going? Yeah.
a fear of unknown, especially.
Okay. Fear of unknown. All right. So,
Mhm,
a great question. Great question.
mhm,
Everything is unknown.
mhm,
Everything is unknown, and we're at a point in time now
mhm,
where
mhm,
there is a thank you, Rue, for sharing that to my timeline,
mhm,
brother. Thank you.
mhm,
Good evening,
mhm,
Stephanie. Um,
mhm,
so there's a huge component that we have to consider, that
mhm,
we were born into this moment, right? We were
mhm,
born into this timeline, this life, to either stand up at this moment of evolution, okay,
mhm,
and then be there for our brothers and sisters because we have eliminated the fear and hatred out of our hearts. Now, fear has many components attached to it. And you
mhm,
can say that fear is on the dark side of the light side, because
mhm,
the light side acknowledges that fear is there, but it
mhm,
assimilates it to the very element of light to appreciate that when it expels that, the person is
mhm,
going to be intimidated. It's not going to be, they're not going to be um, volatile to wherever they are.
mhm,
So the mind creates fear. The
mhm,
heart has taken you through so many journeys where it's experienced in your life fear,
mhm.
and yet
It's
it will
very,
always, yep.
it's very interesting because you said uh, the mind creates fear and the heart creates love. And it reminds me a story about it's very relevant to this topic, and many people would understand, and it would help them to to face this the state of fear. Okay, the story is it's a real story. It didn't happen to me. It happened to a friend of mine, and not friend of mine. I It's a folk story. It happened in this area where I live in. Around about 40 years ago, there were a few teenage friends, and there's a graveyard outside the city. It used to be very scary and lonely. There were trees and bushes, and it was outside the civilization. And they were just those kids, those teenagers in 40, 50 years ago. Those they were teenagers that they are old now. They used to be teenagers for 40 or 50 years ago. Am I making any sense?
I'm following the story.
Okay, okay. And now they were just gossiping, and they said, "Who is going to visit. They just had, just like friends do, the challenge or bickering or that kind of thing. They said who can go there at night. One of them
Oh yeah,
said, "Okay,
the
I'll go."
dare. Yeah,
Yeah, how would you dare to go there? And one of the friends said, "Okay, I'll go there." And but he was also afraid. He was very scared from inside. And okay, they said okay. And when the night happened, when the night sun uh, sun is gone and the night falls in, and what happens, and they gather, they said, okay, you said I'll go there to that graveyard that's outside the city, and it's a bit far. And he said, okay, I'll go there, no problem, but he was very scared from inside. What happens now? And they said, how would you know? How would I know that? We know that you visited the grave. They said, okay, there's a grave in the graveyard, a certain grave. You have to go there, take this. What do you call it? In this stick, you have to put it on that certain grave.
yeah.
Or we will go there in the morning. We'll check it out. If it is there, then then we'll see that you have visited the graveyard. Okay,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and then they just said, okay, you go now. They were on one side of the road, and he just started following there to the graveyard. And when he went there, he was very scared from inside, and it was winter and a cold night, and he was wearing a shawl. And he, the fear and scariness and the clouds and the cold, all of these things, they were just integrated, and
Oh,
he was
they amplified the moment.
yes,
They
they
amplified
amplified.
the moment.
They,
And when we talk about that, right?
okay,
When you talk,
uh, yeah, let me finish the story because the end is very
yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. When he went there inside the grave, inside the graveyard, and at that particular grave was at the end of the graveyard, uh, and he went
Wow.
there, yeah, and he has to go through various hurdles, and he was the the fear and the emotions were high, and it was at the peak, and the shawl, he was wearing a shawl, so he had a stick
Oh,
to to put it down in that grave. He went there and he is stick it out in the ground, and because it was dark, he couldn't see it. And while doing it, he stick it out along with his shawl, the edge of his shawl in the ground. So when he turned back, he thought the shawl was clicked in or from the back. I don't know whether my English is not good, but I don't know whether I'm making any sense or not. But uh, the shawl was taken from the ground from inside with the stick, and he thought that something was holding me back, and the fear was so high that he had a heart attack and he died instantly.
oh
So
wow. That's
yes,
yeah.
and
What a great
yeah,
conclusion. Not a great
yeah,
conclusion, but where it
yeah.
all went to.
Yes, and when the friends and other people, they went to the visited the graveyard, and he was there, and there was nothing from it from the behind. There was nothing from behind. It was just a stick in the ground, and his shawl was tagging it, was just clicked in, was hooked in from behind, and he thought that someone has just told me, someone just has grabbed me from behind. It was just his
Mm-hmm.
shawl was hooked in the ground with the stick. That was
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great way of summarizing fear
Mhm,
to a moment. But
mhm.
before we do that, Will, you said something beautiful as a comment, and that's exactly
Yeah.
right. That's exactly right, Will. But I don't know if you guys seen, but as I was sitting here, right in front of me, there was a little bit of garnet, which is a
Mhm,
gemstone. And I'm
mhm,
in a paddock, right? Garnet's
mhm,
just like it was just sitting on the top and it glistened in the sun. I try to show you, but I'll take a photo of it afterwards and put it up.
mhm,
Amazing, amazing. Um, the element of fear is everything, everything.
mhm,
Ahsan, it's whether you
mhm,
decide whether or not you're worthy, or you're going
mhm,
to be fed that story where you got no decision. You've got to live in
mhm,
that intimidation. I have a fear for my daughter. I'm afraid that something will happen and she will be taken from the life
mhm,
like my son was. This life
mhm,
like my son was. The graveyard is a fear of death. Yes, yes.
mhm,
Um, and that was Stephanie that sent that message about her daughter,
mhm.
was it? Okay, so Stephanie,
Yeah.
you're a mother, so the fear is that of your design. And when it's not in that
Mhm,
space that you can control no
mhm,
more, it's fear. So, in
mhm,
that transmutation that you're doing across
mhm,
everything that you are doing, allow that
mhm,
knowing that your daughter has come here for a reason, not to depart so early, but to go through a small journey where she appreciates where her mother's coming from. And then
mhm,
allow that fear to just expel as the love that you have, because in the
mhm,
negotiation of why or
mhm,
how, we always put it external of ourselves. And when we
mhm,
carry the element of love within us through the
mhm,
brokenness in which we've gone through on this journey of life, and we can
mhm,
still hold reservation within our heart to know consciously that this is the place where I want to reside, fear just
mhm,
dissipates. The very element of fear is being negotiated in a nanosecond with the
mhm,
experience that you are taking on this journey. It's absorbed and
mhm,
transmuted in a moment,
mhm,
because the appreciation that that fear is a past tense of a story in which you had to go through, to then
mhm,
appreciate that you're holding on to that fear for so many different reasons other than the reason why you needed to, and that was to transmute
mhm,
into the worthiness of going through it, and then have
mhm,
that double energy because you experienced it, you lived through that journey, you held the fear for so long, and now absorb that
mhm,
into the love that you've negotiated. The whole thing changes.
mhm.
The whole
So
very
we,
story changes.
so we have a comment here from Rao Simon, and he said,
Oh, okay.
translate,
Translate the story.
uh,
Yeah, all right. So what you were
yeah,
saying was that in a
mhm,
game, in a
mhm,
dare, like everybody else does, like the whole
mhm,
generation, I believe, have used graveyards as a dare within
mhm,
their adolescence. That this
mhm,
gentleman,
mhm,
you guys had organised that this gentleman go there of a night time on a dare,
mhm,
and leave something on the gravestone that you
mhm,
acknowledged existed within that graveyard, and then as a group you would go back there the very next day. So
mhm,
after all of that, your friend went to that gravestone, and there was a
mhm,
stake in the ground that he actually got his jumper attached
mhm,
to. And
mhm,
then that fear and intimidation was so rampant in his psyche, because it was all you
mhm,
guys gearing up and how fearful it was, the weather and everything that was around, that
mhm,
his heart exploded in a heart attack when his jumper got caught on that stake and he was alone, because he had
mhm,
fretted himself into a
mhm,
point of anxiety where there was nowhere else to
mhm,
go, because the fear just became the attachment. Is
mhm.
that right, brother?
Yes, I
Is that,
think it would have, yeah, it would
yeah?
have made, because yeah, English is not my first language. It's actually
Oh,
my
that's
third.
okay. I
Fourth.
I understood
It's
what you
my
said.
Yes, okay. It's my third or fourth language. I use more words and the
Oh, now you're
simpler
showing
words,
off.
and I don't know
Now you're showing
to
off, mate.
to to make sense of the story. But okay, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, you said fear and anxiety. How do you differentiate between fear and anxiety? Is it
It's the same thing.
the fear is
It's the same thing. Everything,
mhm,
every part of the language is an extension of some core words.
mhm,
And we decide
mhm,
what those core words are now. And it's love,
mhm,
it's truth,
mhm,
it's peace,
mhm,
and then it's fear. And everything stems from
mhm,
fear because we're
mhm,
claiming unworthiness from
mhm,
where it was to reside within us now as we see that we are worthy to experience what we are going through, and therefore give
mhm,
you the stability to understand that the rationale that has led you to that moment needs to be adjusted.
mhm.
And you see the
Yes.
beautiful, spectacular being that you are after you witness the experience that you journeyed through one more time.
Mhm,
That's all.
mhm,
One more time. And appreciate everything that has happened to you, every extraordinary moment. And then
mhm,
say, okay, wow, I didn't die. I'm still here. It must mean that I am able to continue on this journey and not hold that anymore and step into the truest
mhm,
version of you, the peace architect
mhm,
that is actually architecting the peace that you are living within.
mhm,
Everything that you have at your disposal is either at your disposal or it's there for you to accumulate in regards to
mhm,
your inner self to
mhm.
prepare, center, and then step back out.
Adrian, I have a very good thought that if the fear is inside of us and it's not outside, and it makes us cautious about certain things, and okay, it makes sense. If the fear inside is persistent, persistent over a period of time, then it means we are fighting a battle from inside. That we have to finish the fear of ourselves, of the inside.
Yeah, yes, very much so. Because I think
Mhm,
we've already spoken about this, Hassan. We have two
mhm,
voices going on in our head at a very minimum. And that is the
mhm,
voice of our egotistical brain that wants to
mhm,
know everything, that wants to
mhm,
understand everything. And then we have the voice
mhm,
of our heart, which has been here many times before. And the voice of our
mhm,
heart acknowledges the birds, acknowledges the ground in which we sit on, it acknowledges exactly where we are. So your
mhm,
heart voice will never lead you into a point when you give it credit of existing, will never lead you into a point of devastation. It will
mhm,
always create an element for you to justify
mhm,
why you are there. And that's the
mhm,
only truest agenda that you have.
mhm, mhm,
So what we do is we go, oh, no, no, it can't be that easy in our brain. We go, oh, no, 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 that's bullshit. That's religious. That's crap. That's all of this rubbish. But in
mhm,
actual fact, it is the intuition of our soul. It is our
mhm,
heart voice that is saying, thank you for listening to me. You are beautiful. You are magnificent.
mhm,
Thank you for
mhm,
going through all of that in
mhm,
regards to preparing yourself for this moment,
mhm.
eliminating fear in an instant as you walk away from it. The
So
story that it,
the
yeah, go
final
on.
question is how to deal with fear.
Well, you've to deal with fear is to firstly acknowledge that it is in
Mhm,
every vibration of communication, of every
mhm,
essence of
mhm,
existence. There is fear. If you are one to attach to it, okay,
mhm,
you can clearly walk away by doing this, by sitting at a tree and acknowledging that this thing is
mhm,
100 years old, 20 years old, 50 years old, just being with
mhm,
it for a moment, breathing exactly as
mhm,
Rue says.
mhm,
When you take a breath and you hold that breath, you're restarting your own clock.
mhm,
So you can actually calibrate and dissect what no longer serves you any purpose and walk away from that. And when I say walk away, just acknowledge that, hey, thank you for being
mhm,
with me while this journey was taking place. You can
mhm,
either stay, and this is a communication between you and all of them other voices.
mhm,
We are at this point in time to discuss
mhm,
like this, to openly discuss with all the listeners. We need to
mhm,
eliminate the element of the external God to the internal
mhm,
God
mhm,
and appreciate that the internal God has structured your design through this story. So give him
mhm,
a little credit, give her a little credit for what they have done.
mhm,
And then label yourself a peace architect, label yourself whatever you decide. But make sure
mhm.
that you are designing your story when the story is being designed around you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole thing.
So
The story will
yes.
always continue until you see that you are a major character within this storyline.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Ahsan
Yes,
story.
just
It's
like
the Adrian story.
yes.
It's the Rue story. It's the Stephanie story. Everybody else
Mhm.
that's there, it is their story. They
It
only
is
built
there.
a story for us to exist in. Choose the character you want to be and then journey forward, knowing that the planet is shifting. And
Mhm.
the only key component is when you love yourself.
Mhm.
The rest is gold. The rest is the
Yes.
Midas touch.
Yes, how to deal with fear is to breathing, love yourself, exercising, going out, just like you said, socializing, communicating with other people, and reaching out for help if you need it. And that's how you
Yeah,
deal
but
with
don't be
fear.
scared. Don't be scared to
Yes.
sit alone
Mhm. Mhm.
and go through that element of love, go through that element
Mhm.
of peace, go through that
Mhm.
element of worthiness.
Mhm.
Okay?
Mhm.
Don't be so quick to jump out there when we do a lot of the work within. And when you're
Mhm.
doing the work within, you're not really doing justice by being
Mhm.
out there.
Mhm.
Yeah?
Yes.
And advocating what you're doing because you are stumbling through it. You have not
Mhm.
given a foundation to yourself to experience, oh my God, I am only
Mhm.
love. I don't want to hurt anything.
Mhm.
I don't want
Yes.
anybody to hurt. Being good to
Mhm.
self, exactly right.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
So
And okay, okay,
yeah, go on, sir.
finish. Okay. How to deal with fear is to be good to yourself, love yourself, because we are fighting a battle from inside. And the fear, if it is persistent, if it prolongs for a period of time, then it means you are fighting a battle from inside. And you have to love yourself, accept yourself. If you accept yourself, if you love yourself, only then you can beat the fear of yourself and also the outside.
Okay.
Is it right?
Can I say let's not use the word battle
Yes. Okay.
because
Go ahead.
a battle acknowledges straight away that it's going to be a mission where it's going to be painful and everything like that. It's already setting a
Mhm,
precedence to where
mhm,
you think that you're going to arrive. We're
mhm.
all very tired.
No,
We've experienced so
mhm,
much pain in this lifetime. And the changing of the narrative, Hassan, is when you're being
mhm,
gentle on yourself. So it's not a battle. It is an
mhm,
acknowledgement. It
mhm,
is acknowledgement that there are two endeavors going on in the very element of which you are. One is
mhm,
love, and then the other
mhm,
is fear. And
mhm,
assimilate to the very one by accepting that
mhm,
both of them are required. So then you
mhm,
can ultimately step outside now and
mhm,
appreciate the major component of love
mhm,
being the far superior. Those that are
mhm,
carrying fear will open up
mhm,
their hearts to you
mhm.
in a second
Yes.
because they
Mhm.
understand and they're feeling it from the voice within their heart. They're not thinking about it no more. They're allowing
Yes.
that fear to be seen and shed as their
Mhm.
barriers start to fall. Sorry, brother,
Yes,
this is
indeed.
a really good
Yes.
topic. In half an hour I'm not going to get a lot in.
Yes, indeed. It's a very interesting topic. We can go on for hours, but it is difficult for our viewers to watch it later on when a 2 hours or 3 hours of video. So we started our journey. Uh, the plan was to discuss only one aspect of it, and we will discuss other aspect in the other video next time. And we started our journey with fear. It's our instinct, human instinct, emotional instinct, and it makes us cautious and alerts us about certain things. And the reason we survive is because of fear, and how to deal with it is to love yourself, accept yourself, and be gentle on yourself. And the sorry for using the word battle. Battle is I use it metaphorical in the metaphorical sense or
Yeah, I know, but
metaphorical and
if we talk
to
metaphorical, we
acknowledge.
still attach it.
Yes,
We still attach it, yeah?
yes,
So
yes, an
acknowledging it,
acknowledgement,
correct.
acknowledging your fear. Yes, acknowledging the good and bad side, and yes, indeed, breathing. Final words. final words and your final thoughts, Adrian.
My final thoughts, Ahsan, I love you.
Mhm, mhm.
I love you. And anything I
I
say
love
is
you
my
too, my brother.
experience.
Mhm,
Anything I say is my experience of peace
mhm,
architecture. So
mhm,
I'm a big advocate on changing the narrative in which we all speak to our own extraordinary design. And then
mhm,
if we lessen the quality of our words by using them, we are only then
mhm,
lessening the quality of our existence, because we do not believe that we have the faith within ourselves that we are worthy.
mhm,
And it's not hard to
mhm,
stop the slander of your own self when you appreciate how magnificent you are. So I
mhm,
love you, my brother, and I love every opportunity that you provide for me as a peace architect to put this
mhm,
message around the world.
mhm. We have a comment here. I don't think birds fear they live life for what life is, when free and hide fear
Yeah,
them.
no. Well, they might not live with fear, or they do
Mhm,
live with fear, because I've seen them
mhm,
sitting there. Even the largest cockatoos and parrots will shove off
mhm,
as soon as a big eagle comes on. A big
mhm,
eagle's in the air, or they hear a choo, choo, or the sound of a bird that's a
mhm,
bird of prey. They've got fear and instinct that they just go straight away. They live with it because they're alert to it. They've
mhm,
transmuted it, that they know that it exists, so therefore they're prepared for it. Everything
mhm,
is prepared for it. We just
mhm,
aren't, because we carry it continuously.
mhm.
We have been very
Yes,
harsh on ourselves, more so than
yes,
others. We are.
yes.
We are our biggest critic. We are
Mhm,
our unruly friend. Because
yes.
when we're divided, and you want to speak to when you want to speak to yourself in the loneliness of the night, that's when you'll see the heart voice and you'll see the head voice, the ego
Mhm,
voice,
yes.
constructing all
And
of these different variations of what it perceives you to be, when you're not being genuine in any of them, because your heart will never lead you astray.
yes, indeed. And the final message of love. Love is the solution. Love yourself, breathe, exercise, communicate, and be gentle on yourself. And because mostly we are very harsh on ourselves, and that's how we can beat fear. That's how to deal with fear. And thank you guys joining us. And if you have any questions, just leave it in the comment box below. I'll answer it to you. Adrian will get back to you as soon as he can. And thank you. Good night, good day, good
Okay,
afternoon, wherever you are.
we're gonna go one more minute. You're live for
Mhm.
32:36 now. Let's finish this on 33:33.
Okay,
Okay? Let's
okay.
finish it on 33:33. So then everybody is able to touch it. It will stand the truth of time.
Okay.
What we have going on now is an
Mhm,
extraordinary moment. And this
mhm,
extraordinary moment takes everybody to acknowledge that they are
mhm,
here for that moment. So we
mhm,
can appreciate who we are, where we have come
mhm,
from, with the very many
mhm,
maps of that has led us here. All we need to
mhm,
do is drop all of that story and appreciate that this moment has arrived, for all
mhm,
our brothers and sisters to step up and uniquely say, hey, we're here now, and there's
mhm.
something that needs to change.
Yes,
Every
indeed.
one of us, every one of us is magnificent. Every one of us has a story to tell. The
Mhm,
story doesn't need to be told.
mhm,
We only need to consider that we are valid. That's it from me.
mhm.
33, 31, 32. See you later.
Yes.
Oh, you
Okay.
went